everybody. Been having a little difficulty connecting here this morning, but this is Coffee Props. Glad you joined us. Today we are talking to Jonas from Brazil as soon as he joins us. And this show that Kim Logston Financial Consulting and I have started, we are, let me join Kim here. We are doing this show on Tuesdays at 9 a.m. for coffee shop owners, roasters, anyone who is in the coffee industry, the craft beverage industry. There's Kim. How you doing, Kim?
Yeah, I'm great, thanks. Got my
Good.
new coffee hat on today.
I see that. I see that. What's it? So where's it from?
Methodical.
Methodical.
Greenville, South Carolina.
Okay. Yes. Yes. Methodical Coffee. I have joined them, or I've followed them for a long time. There's Jonas. How you doing, bud?
Hi, how are you?
I'm great. I'm great. For a while there, I wasn't sure if I was going to make it. My internet wasn't really good, but I'm glad we're here. I was just telling everybody who's joining us, and if you join me first, welcome again. I was on, and I was trying to connect with Kim, but then all of a sudden I just lost it. So anyway, Jonas, we have him come on and talk with us every month about the coffee industry from the perspective of Brazil. And glad you're here. Kim, glad you're here. And all of you who are joining us, glad you're here. Tell us where you're from. So, Jonas, I want to know, when I go into a coffee shop, why can't I get the same origin all year round? Like sometimes there's Brazil, sometimes there's Ethiopian. Why, when I get a great cup of coffee and I want to get that all year round, what's really going on behind the scenes?
Yeah, yeah. The one reason it's because nature it's not really interested in standards. This is the first problem. So nature is really tricky with the farmers, with some regions or some countries sometimes. And then I think I think around the world, there are two types of coffee shops. One are looking for standards, another one are looking for single origin. If you go to a coffee shop that are interested in single origin, the customers that go there to drink coffee have to put in mind that sometimes the coffee will taste a little different if you always buy the coffee for the same farm, same location, because the climate in that specific year could be colder, hotter. We could have some rains that are not expecting. So prices of fertilizers could be higher than farmers are willing to pay. So they have to choose a different source of fertilizer. So it's really hard to take standards. It's easy to see that when we talk, for example, for wine. The wine industry is very structured, that they know exactly what they're doing, but each season is different. Even the many vineyards do the same thing, trying to reach the same standard, the good standard like they have 2 years ago, but they not always reach this perfect standards. So, and there's a kind of coffee shops that are interested in standards. So these coffee shops usually seek for different origins, different farmers, different sourcers, in order to buy coffee for different places and do a blend to reach the same standard of acidity or complexity or body. So they buy different sources, try everything, cup everything, and do a mix, a blend, in order to source to the drinker what they're looking. I like, for example, some people like high acidity coffee. So the coffee shops look for this high acidity coffee and put in the portfolio in order to serve to their customers.
So it's almost like in the wine industry, when we say that was a good year, we could technically say that about coffee too, right?
Yeah, and when we're talking about coffee, there's the chain is very long. Usually in the wine industry, the farm do everything until the bottle of wine. So they process, they ferment, they do everything. So they have a very good control of everything. When we talk about coffee, it's not the same because the chain is have many players in the chain. So the farmer do a perfect job in a year, but maybe the roasters are not prepared to roast that specific kind of coffee. For example, high density coffee with very how can I say, very sensitive notes that could be very careful to roast. And then you sell this roasted coffee to a coffee shop, then maybe the barista are not well trained to use that coffee, or that coffee do not work well sometimes in espresso, but if I brew it and then put over works well. So the chain is very long. So the control of quality is really complicated, and the end of the line is the customer that want to have a perfect cup of coffee, but it should understand that this long chain sometimes brings some kind of difficulties to reach this beautiful cup of coffee that was well harvested in some farm around the world.
It is
Jonas,
amazing.
Jonas, do you see like your local farmers recommend like, okay, here's my bean, this is what we recommend in terms of roasting, this is what we recommend in terms of pour over versus brew? Like, are there like, can a farmer say, recommend to whomever's buying their beans, like, this is, if you want these notes, these flavors, roast this way, make the coffee this way? Is that possible?
Yeah, I think if you ask me that question 10 years ago, I say no. But now farmers start to understand how it's important that their work reach the customer, because they do a job for a year with a lot of problems because climate is unstable. And so now I see farmers understand better what they have in hands. So that is why some farmers in Brazil are starting to roast their own beans. They start to buy good equipment, like in the live that we had about months ago, that I show you a farmer that have their own roaster. So they start to, okay, maybe I should roast the coffee here to control everything,
Right.
and maybe I should recommend my customer to, okay, this coffee is very body add, maybe works better for a French press or whatever. So I see this movement happens about maybe 2 to 3 years now, that farmers are trying to do a kind of same job of vineyard yard. So this is what I do, all my work. So you just need to brew it. So I
Yeah.
think it's interesting to see that. So customers could have their own coffee experience, like whole farm coffee experience too.
So it's almost instead of a vineyard, it would be a coffee yard.
Yeah.
So, great question, Kim. And that made me think of another question. Is there something different about getting coffee to make espresso versus getting coffee to make a pour over or whatever, Chemex or Bee, Bee House or whatever?
hmm Yeah, for me, to be, because each method of brewing have a different characteristics, but in my opinion, a very acidic coffee, I don't like to use it for espresso because I think it's too much. If the coffee red is very acid, and you put in espresso, it's for me it's too intense in order to you to appreciate other characteristics of coffee, like complexity, some fruit flavor or sweetness, because the acidity is too strong. So usually for very acid coffee, I recommend to use some kind of pour over method. And I like, for example, to use an espresso, coffee, very body-add coffees, because the coffee, it makes the coffee very dense and very like a silk sensation on the tongue.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So it's
Mm-hmm.
usually these two main lines that I use. If your method brings acidity up, maybe I not recommend to use acidic beans. And so this is, I think, the main line for that.
Well, that's
Yeah.
fascinating. It's amazing how many variables that take place from,
Hmm.
I mean, even if you go to the farmer himself or herself and how they harvest the beans and then what they do to wash, and it's all the way to the cup of coffee. When you really think about it, the coffee that you drink has a story, and that's what's amazing to me.
Mm-hmm.
Every turn along the way. So where are you at today, Jonas?
Today I'm at the Boa Esperança Coffee Farm. We are starting the harvest season here
Mm-hmm.
too. For I think about now is the second week of harvesting.
Hmm.
So people start to come to the farm to harvest bean because most of the berries are ripe, like this
Mm-hmm.
one.
Oh, beautiful. Yeah. Yes.
And so we need to take the berries out of the trees before they fall on the ground.
Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's like we have to do everything in about 2 months.
Mm-hmm.
So we have to do all the logistics because it's not about just taking out the tree. We have to think about how we would dry it. So we
Mm-hmm.
have to prepare the raising beds, the yards, the dryers, and everything in order to it's like a farm that is this farm is it's for some standards is a medium farm. It's about 300,000 coffee trees that we have
Mm-hmm.
here to harvest.
Okay.
And so we have to I have to help the farmer to do the calculation for the flow because we can't harvest so much coffee a day because we don't have the way to process the coffee. So it's why I'm here today to help
Mm-hmm.
him to plan everything up for the next 2 months.
Well, hang on to that cherry that you just grabbed because we need every bite, every one of them.
I will take a yellow one. We
Yeah.
have
Oh, very
the
nice.
red one,
Yeah.
the yellow one.
Now they're
It's
Yeah.
both
two different varieties of coffee.
going to say they're
Interesting. Right
both.
next to each other. Right next to each other.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, that's amazing. Well, Jonas, thank you for joining us and sharing a little bit more insight into what goes on in that coffee cup that we order and walk away from. And it's also good for the coffee shop owner and the roaster to understand what's really going on. Those of you who are starting a coffee shop from the very beginning, or you're starting to roast your own coffee, I would suggest that you connect with Jonas, the agronomist, and you'll see him on Instagram and others, and connect with him, and he'll help you understand what's going on. He's from Brazil, and thank you for spending some time with us.
Thank you so much. I always happy to be here talking about coffee with you too. It's a pleasure to me to bring a little bit of the Brazilian production in my perspective and the coffee farmer perspective.
And
Great.
Jonas, next time you have to bring your saxophone.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'll try to do it.
at least post some music on there, some video.
Yeah. Uh, okay, I do it.
All right, guys.
Bye, everybody. Have a great day.
Bye
Bye.
bye.